What questions or problems are you working to solve?
As a sports pharmacist, my work addresses the gap in healthcare for active populations. Traditionally, pharmacy education and pharmacy as a practice area in healthcare often focus on sedentary majority, which makes sense since about 60 to 85% of people globally lead sedentary lives, unfortunately. And this is according to the recent WHO report. But with the rising participation in sports and fitness activities, from weekend warriors to elite athletes, there is a growing need for specialized care for active populations. These active populations, athletes, they have unique physiological responses to exercise. Their bodies are different. It works different. So it also affects how medications work in their bodies, consider pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics. And I find that this is very crucial to tailor the pharmaceutical care we are offering to this specific group, the active population. And this is what I'm passionate about at the moment as a specialist in sports pharmacology. But it goes beyond just athletes themselves. We also need to combat misinformation in the health and wellness industry. It's rising so much at the moment. There are marketing scams. Everyone calls themselves specialists just with a certification. There are non-scientific approaches, even harmful ones, becoming very common and easily accessible through social media and such platforms. So I took a mission, and it's to safeguard the athlete health while helping them to reach their full potential, whether for an elite athlete or just an active person who wants to lose fat or likes to stay fit throughout their life. And I'm not addressing just the medications of the athletes. I'm also addressing the risk of injuries, illnesses, and overtraining risks of the athletes. So there is a lot of prevention going on in the area of sports pharmacy. And I also help educating the public, athletes' parents or coaches about performance-enhancing drugs, and the risks they pose in health. Not just in elite sports. If we speak about performance-enhancing drugs, people may think that it's just for the elite sports since we just completed the Olympics and the Paralympics. But clean sport and the risk of performance-enhancing drugs is also considering the general population. Teenagers, for instance, they are using these performance-enhancing drugs because there is a huge body image concerns and pressures happening to the youth, and it became a public health issue. The doping, the performance-enhancing drugs became a public health issue that needs to be addressed by a specialist in sports pharmacology. In summary, my goal is to support athletes and the active population by delivering a specialized pharmaceutical care, promoting clean sports, fighting misinformation, while guiding athletes to perform their best without compromising their health and safety.
Why have you chosen to pursue this question or problem?
My personal journey as both a healthcare professional and an amateur athlete led me here to become a sports pharmacist. During the pandemic, we were all travel limited, so I had all the time for myself, and I became more active during this time. And I quickly realized that my usual nutrition, my self-care and healthcare routines weren't enough to keep up with the physical and mental demands that I'm going with the sports that I'm doing. So in the end, I experienced several sports injuries. I was shocked because I was told sports is something good, it makes you better. And I realized it was no good for me, and there was something wrong about it. From there, it sparked my curiosity, and I decided to explore sports pharmacy area after several researches in the area. I enrolled in an online certification program during the pandemic, like we all did. I was online and training myself, and learning about sports pharmacy after being a pharmacist for more than 10 years, in the experience, in the practice, I felt I was learning a new language. I realized how little I knew about this field, sports, athletes. It was just a complete new area for me. And that made me more curious because there was so much to learn. And that drove my interest as a pharmacist to deep dive in the area. And after some time exploring the sports pharmacy area, I decided to pivot my career and I returned to practice. After working for more than 5 years for the International Pharmaceutical Federation, FIP, I worked in the area of health policy, and returning to practice was quite exciting for me as a sports pharmacist. And I started with contributing to international reports on sports pharmacy. I connected with pioneers in the area of sports pharmacy. And it was that time we were still online. And I met many sports pharmacist colleagues from Japan to US through online networks. And it gave me even more and more enthusiasm to understand the area, because there were colleagues who worked for Olympics, Paralympics, Winter Games, or other major sports events. So I got really, really excited. And I also immersed myself in the athletic community because it's a specific patient population. To understand my focus group, my patient population, I had to be more closer to them. And I decided to volunteer in sporting events, in sports clinics. I worked with teams, federations, mostly in a volunteer capacity. And I really liked the area. And through that short sabbatical experience, I decided to took formal education, and I completed my master's degree in sports pharmacy from Gazi University, Turkey. Currently it's the only master's program around the world, and many other programs are emerging. You can also explore what type of other programs that are available from FIP's report on sports pharmacy, which I also contributed while I was working for FIP at that time. And while I was completing my master's in sports pharmacy, I also decided to pursue International Olympic Committee's certification program. It was a program dedicated for drugs in sport. Excellent program. If anyone is interested in this area, I think there is no better program at the moment. And it's eventually translating, the program is going to be transitioned into a diploma program. So it's very enriching. So I completed my master's. I became an IOC certified sports pharmacist. And then I realized the learning never ends, because sports is such a dynamic area, and also the athletes' needs are changing so quickly. This area is promoting growth, and it asks you to become a better professional. So eventually, I'm in the journey of improving my professional performance as a sports pharmacy alongside my athletes that I'm supporting. So I combined my passion for sports with my profession, and this was so rewarding so far. And in this field, why I like sports pharmacy is you're helping people, humans, to become better versions of themselves. There is the traditional pharmacy where we treat patients. Of course, there are prevention approaches that is rising. And there is also sports pharmacy where you are just making your athletes to perform better, to stay healthier. So it's completely a different positive experience for me in this area. I've been a consultant to many athletes, some of the teams and federations so far. And the athletes that I worked with can now exercise longer. Their performance has increased. They quickly recover from illnesses or injuries. And for example, they have improved blood results. They are informed, they are educated, and they promote clean sports alongside me as a anti-doping specialist. So this was very rewarding to me so far. And as a pharmacist, my priority is patient/athlete safety. And athletes are the patient population that I feel that I'm uniquely trained to serve. We pharmacists are often the most accessible healthcare advisors in our societies. So I position myself as the trusted resource for athletes and active individuals. Sports pharmacy is an emerging field. There are so many pioneers in the area, and I'm proud to be amongst the first wave of specialists working to advance the area of sports pharmacy.
As individuals and collectively as a society, what can we do to help answer the questions or solve these problems?
First and foremost, we need to educate ourselves as a community, as a society. Health and wellness have become complicated fields. There are other goals that are held by marketing organizations. So there is some profitable actions that are happening there, but as healthcare professionals, it is our duty to stay educated so that we may safeguard the health and safety of athletes and active population and anyone who's involved in sports. Our society is filled with misinformation, and this is especially happening in social media and other unregulated platforms. It's essential to become informed. It's essential to become educated, especially for the users of health information from such resources. Whether you're an athlete or someone leading an active lifestyle, you should be checking the credibility of the resources you trust with your health. So it's the responsibility of the healthcare professionals serving to the athletic community, but it's also important that athletes and active people themselves have to be educated, have to be informed to protect themselves. So we have to work hand in hand. And it has to be also a multidisciplinary team that has to be educated and informed, serving the athletic community. So I see a triangle here connecting different healthcare professionals, also athlete support personnel, considering coaches, for example, and the athletes. So this triangle has to be informed and educated in their respective areas. If we think about the society, we can work to better understand the risks of performance enhancing drugs. Not just in elite sports, as I mentioned, it's becoming a public health issue. It's already a public health issue. So it's something that we can educate ourselves in our everyday life. We can advocate for cleaner, safer sports, make it a priority to maintain integrity in sports, in health and wellness industries. I've seen that, for example, in our culture, where I'm from, my hometown, Turkey, doping is something that is perceived as a positive thing. So, for example, if you read the news, they say, here is the 5 doping substances. They are speaking about herbal medicines here that can enhance the school performance of your children. So I think this is a very risky perspective. We have to be careful and mindful about our language. And when this type of language is there, we have to help and educate the society, or maybe the media, or just become the advocate in social media to explain what is doping, what are the risks, not just in elite sports, but also especially the gym goers, which is becoming a huge risk around the world. Together, we can promote better health practices and ensure athletes getting the right support so they excel without compromising their safety and health. They just focus on their sports, they enjoy the activity they are doing, and they leave the rest of the responsibilities to athletes, healthcare professionals. By taking these steps as a society, as professionals serving athletes and also including athletes themselves, we can tackle misinformation, we can ensure safe, effective care to athletes and active population, and we can help both athletes and the general public to achieve their health goals in a safe and effective way. I'm co-hosting a podcast channel with a sports pharmacist from US, Jessica Bill Stoll, We actually never met as a person, but we met through sports pharmacist networks online, which I'm also going to share a few of them for listeners who are interested in the area. But speaking about our podcast, we started the journey with Jessica about being a trusted resource for athletes, but also pharmacists and all the athlete health support personnel. So far we recorded 21 episodes, and our recent episodes were focusing on Olympics and Paralympics. We use science. We always speak about evidence-based information, and we try to educate athletes about common supplements or healthcare issues, how they can become better health advocates. But also we try to support pharmacists, our peers, colleagues from around the world, to become trusted healthcare advisors to athletes, so that this specific population is understood and well served. Not everyone has to become a sports pharmacist. Not everyone has to take a master's or take an IOC course in drugs and sports, etc. It's a specialization. However, you may face an athlete coming to your pharmacy, or you may serve to an athlete in a hospital pharmacy in a clinical setting, or you may be in a pharmaceutical company where the medicine you are launching or doing research may have performance enhancing properties, which has to be reported to the World Anti-Doping Agency. So we all need a certain level of awareness. And if you'd like to increase your awareness, I strongly recommend our podcast, which is called the Performance Prescription Lab Podcast. You may find our podcast on YouTube and all podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So just feel free to subscribe and don't miss any episode. And we would love to get your feedback and topics that our listeners are interested to. And also, I use my own voice in social media, and with ethical principles, I try to communicate with athletes and my followers who are also pharmacists or athlete support personnel, such as sports physicians or sports physiotherapists or sports psychologists. I try to be the voice, a trusted resource for the community that I work for, and I share useful, practical information using my social media and my voice. So I also invite our listeners to take a look and just share any feedback they have. One of the most valuable thing I found when I started the sports pharmacy journey was the international networks that were existing. The first one that I got engaged very closely was the International Sports Pharmacist Network, ICPN. You may find ICPN on LinkedIn. That is posting extremely useful information. You don't have to be a sports pharmacist specifically, but it can help you to serve athletes better with the guidance that it provides on how to understand healthcare from the sports perspective. So ICPN is a great network to start with if you'd like to engage in this area. And also ICPN is organizing an international symposium that is online, which can also contribute. It's once a year, so you may follow the news about the symposium online. And finally, there are two emerging groups, again from US. One is US Sports Pharmacy Group, and the other is Sports Pharmacy RX Network, which I'm also involved in. So these three groups are housing amazing individuals from all around the world. The groups are US based, but it's a home to all of us, from Turkey to Japan, from Egypt to Algeria, from Africa to Europe. So if you're also interested in the area, there are great resources and great people you can connect to. And finally, I also would like to say FIP's report on sports pharmacy practice and education is a great resource that can explain sports pharmacy better. This is my story. This is how I got involved in sports pharmacy and how I see it as a challenge that I'm trying to overcome. I'm committed to making athletes healthier, I'm committing to help them perform better through health and wellness, and I'm committing to protecting clean sports so that fair play is always there for everyone all around the world.